You all set? They said they're ready. Yeah. Okay. We will now reconvene the special city council meeting. Madam City Attorney, do we have anything to report on closed session action?
Yes, Madam Mayor. There were 3 items on the closed session agenda. Item number 1, City Council gave direction to settle the liability claim and prepare a settlement and release agreement, which, once fully executed, will be on file in the city clerk's office. Item number 2, the City Council received a report but took no formal action. And lastly, for item number 3, during closed session, the City Council took action to agree to accept the resignation of the city manager effective July 1st, 2022, pursuant to a separation agreement, which was approved by the City Council with a motion by Councilmember Trujillo and a second by Councilmember Alvarez, and with Councilmembers Ashton, Pacheco, Alvarez, and Trujillo voting yes, and Councilmember Frometa voting no. And that ends the closed session report.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. And I just want to add upon closed session item number 3. I want to say a couple words. Gilbert's, our city manager's retirement marks nearly 15 years of public service to the community of Downey, with over 10 years served as a top unelected official in Downey. During his tenure as city manager, the city of Downey experienced an economic rebirth in its downtown core, expanded shopping experiences with the development of the promenade, and preserved the community's reputation for public safety and low crime. On behalf of our city council, I thank our city manager, Gilbert Livas, for his many contributions to our community and to our city staff, and wish him well in his future plans. We will miss you. And that concludes my comments as to that respect. The special city council meeting is now adjourned, and the time is 6:42. I would like to welcome members of the public participating in the virtual city council meeting. As the state continues to be under a state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and state and local officials continue to impose and recommend measures to promote social distancing, and meeting in person presents imminent risks to the health and safety of attendees, the Downey City Council has adopted a resolution authorizing the use of remote teleconferencing pursuant to Assembly Bill 361 and Government Code Section 54953E. The resolution will remain in effect until February 12, 2022. If at any time during the virtual meeting, members of the public experience any technical difficulties with Zoom or YouTube live stream, we ask that you please switch to the alternative platform. Instructions on how to access the virtual meeting via Zoom and YouTube live stream have been attached to the City Council meeting agenda. If at any time during the meeting the city experiences any technical difficulties with one of the 2 platforms, I will recess the meeting to allow members of the public time to switch to the alternative platform. Before I begin the regular city council meeting, I would like to inform members of the public that I will be taking public comment via our teleconference line. Those wishing to address the city council may call 562-299-6622 when I make that announcement. As established by the Downey Municipal Code, speakers will be given the allotted 3-minute speaking time for public hearing items and 1 4-minute speaking time for agenda, consent calendar, and non-agenda items. The total oral communication period will be 30 minutes. The mayor may extend or limit the time for individual speakers or the maximum time for oral communications. I remind speakers that their comments will be recorded. Once your time has ended, the call will be immediately disconnected. For those who have submitted their comments in writing, your comments will be read into the record and no additional public comment will be permitted via teleconference. I remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you are participating telephonically. A language interpreter is available virtually for those members of the public needing interpretation during the public comment periods of the meeting. I would now like to call to order the regular city council meeting. City Clerk Duarte, will you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Alvarez,
Present.
Councilmember Frometa,
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton,
Present.
and Mayor Pacheco.
Present. I would now like to call upon Councilmember Frometa to conduct the invocation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we can please stand. Heavenly Father, we come before you with grateful hearts. We thank you for the life that we have, and we thank you for our beautiful city of Downey. Lord, as we come together in unity, we pray that your will would be done in this place. We pray for our law enforcement and our firefighters. We pray that you would keep them safe and you would continue to bless them as they keep our city safe and they protect our residents. Bless our fire chief, our police chief, and all of the city staff, our city manager, as they continue to help us guide this city. Bless the city council. Give us the discernment to make wise decisions on behalf of our 113,000 residents. Please be with us this evening and help us to conduct business in an ethical way. In your name we pray. Amen.
I would now like to call upon our Fire Chief, Dan Herlock, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please remain standing, turn and face the flag. Place your right hand over your heart and join me in our flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you both. Now is the time for City Council member announcements, requests for future agenda items, conference meeting reports. I'll start to my far left with Councilmember Mario Trujillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just an update on the Trujillo brass plan. As you know, for the B stands for broadband, and we're trying to put together what I've referred to as the Downey Connect Task Force to figure out how we can bridge the digital divide, if you will. The R for residential streets, we were very successful in getting the money, great thanks to our city manager, and that's being addressed. Last meeting, I spoke about alleys. We're walking the alleys and figuring out how we're going to repave them. But I'm really excited today about the first S, and that's sidewalks. As you can see, construction is fully underway on Lakewood Boulevard, from the train tracks all the way down to Downey Landing. It's happening, so I want to thank the staff for bringing that to fruition, especially our Director of Public Works, who constantly is hearing from me about these streets and sidewalks. I'd like an update, if we can, on where we are with street lights. I wanted to see how we can identify 10 locations where maybe the residents feel they need additional lighting. And remember that street lights directly correlated to public safety. And how do we engage residents to let them know that we want to hear if they have concerns about their street or if they know of a street, so that we can go to the residents and let them know what it takes to put in a street light. And it comes down to funds, right? They'll have to decide whether they want to pay for this, and we'll do what we can to subsidize, but I would like to see at least where the needs are. So if the Department of Public Works can help us identify that, I'd be greatly appreciated. I had an opportunity to meet with the Downtown Business Improvement Association, and I think it's well known that I have a conflict of interest in anything that this council takes in regards to decision-making about the downtown Downey. But I do want to report out about the fact that it's great that we have a business association. I mean, you see these associations in larger cities, and hopefully you've seen that the association has employed somebody to clean constantly. You'll see her with her cart out there. Additional security. There was an incident that happened in our parking lot that I was concerned about. We know we need additional security. The Downtown Business Association is providing that. They have great visions, talking about arches, making the downtown Instagrammable. I'm happy to report that the association has decided to hire Eric Pierce, who we all know very well, who loves Downey just as much as I do, as part of the staff for the Business Association, along with Hans Fritz. Together, I believe Hans will be the director and Eric will be in charge of media, if you will, PR. So excited about what's going on in the downtown Downey. I've asked staff, particularly our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Schindler, to look into the possibility of creating a revenue stream from filming. I want to be clear that that we should not disturb our delivery of city services, especially when it comes to public safety, just for the sake of some dollars, right? That's not what I'm about. But just to see what that would entail, what other cities are doing, and something for the council to consider. I know that Montebello apparently over 2 years, I'm not sure if it was yearly, was 700, over a 2-year period made almost $750,000, right? 750,000 off filming. So I just want to look into it. Please don't be alarmed that decisions have been made. We just want to see the feasibility of creating a revenue stream from filming. So we would ask staff to please look into that. Got another inquiry about community gardens. I actually had a spot in San Francisco. It was by Petro Hill Park. There was a community garden. It was a great experience. I remember it fondly. Gardening wasn't my thing, so I gave up my little plot of land to somebody else who hopefully enjoyed it more than me. When we visited the recuperative village, I noticed that they had above ground gardening planters, if you will. So I don't know if the city has already looked into the possibility of a community garden, and if we could just get a report back so the residents could hear what we've done in that area. And look, sometimes people like what's the court, Jason? Pickle what?
Pickleball.
I had never heard of pickleball in my life, and now I find out we're getting. So I don't know, but just know, residents, that when you ask us for something, we have to see if the need is there. If we're going to spend your money, how many people are really going to use it. So we're going to look into it. We're going to get some information, but I would like to let the residents know where we stand with community gardens. Again, I enjoyed it. It'd be great if others would enjoy it as well, but we want to make sure we use our money wisely. I don't know, maybe we could get a plot of land from the Ranch Andrews. Is that the name of the, right? Maybe they can give us. Maybe we can reach out to them and see if they'll give us some land so we can do a garden for the community.
We're actually in the process of talking to some folks, and we'll bring back something and give you guys a report on that.
Thank you. And last but not least, I'd like to invite all the Downey residents to join our Sister Cities Association for Guadalajara Social on February the 23rd. I believe that's a Wednesday, 6 to 8 o'clock at Hola Resto Bar. Light appetizers, complimentary. But most importantly, come and meet the members of the Sister Cities Association. I had an opportunity to meet with them. Really want to get it back off the ground, particularly because of the history. That association is another feather in the hat of our great city here in Downey. As many of you know, it's very historic. We have the first Sister Cities Association officially sanctioned in the entire country. So please join the Sister Cities Association. It's just a social. No formal meeting, February the 23rd. And with that, I'll conclude my comments and requests. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Trujillo. Next up, we have Councilmember Claudia Frometa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody, for those of you watching us on Zoom. It's nice to be here this evening. I just have a couple of items to report and then a couple of items for staff. First, it was a privilege and an honor to have attended the swearing-in ceremony of our 12th police chief, our first female police chief in the history of our city, Chief Leslie Murray. Really a significant, historic day for Downey. And as our world continues to change and evolve, it is refreshing and it is encouraging and empowering for women all over to see more women in leadership roles. And certainly we applaud Chief Murray, her leadership, her tenure with this city, as well as the women in uniform in our police department. I also had the pleasure of attending recently, in the last week, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Agents dinner. And again, we know where we are financially, economically, with business development and the real estate market. And again, this organization brought investors from, and real estate individuals from not just this city, obviously, but surrounding cities and other places in the country. And it is always important to recognize the collaborations and the partnerships as our city continues to evolve and continues to change. It was a pleasure attending that event. A couple of things I would like staff to look into is, once again, I know we've touched on issues of homeless encampments that occur in different places of town, and there was one that was reported earlier this week off of the 5 freeway on the Lakewood off-ramp, and if we can please coordinate efforts, I think we need to be able to be very swift in our response, and I know that we are, but make sure that we continue coordinating with the appropriate agencies. Also, I've come to notice, I know that our local businesses certainly have gone through a difficult time during COVID, and I know we also have to adhere to our city codes. I'm seeing a lot of flashing lights. Once again, I think they're making a comeback in some of the windows. And again, we want to be engaging and supportive of our business community, especially our small businesses that have taken such a toll over the last couple of years. But there are some in certain places, and if we can please reach out to them, let them know what our code and our policy is on flashing lights. And also, I know we've been talking about the issue of street repaving and rehabilitation. I have gotten several inquiries, and I know we can't do it all. We're taking one bite at a time. However, the area of Florence Avenue between Brookshire and Paramount has some significant potholes that some residents have really continuously complained about. So if we can please take a look at that between Brookshire and Paramount. And last but not least, our continuous speed enforcement in the major thoroughfares. I know we run lean, and I know there's a lot of other priorities when it comes to crime and public safety in general. But again, speed enforcement is one of those things that we must continuously address. Madam Mayor, that is all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have not recently attended meetings, so there's nothing to report on there. I had a chance to help out at the Shower of Hope, and I'm glad that more of our unhoused residents here in Downey is having the opportunity to take a shower. I wanted to thank the Shower of Hope, obviously Janice Han for making it happen. Also Aldo, Judy, and staff for helping to make it possible. I wanted to ask if there's any way to my colleagues to leave the exhibition until the 22nd so we can recognize the artists on that date. I know it's nothing, this is not an agenda item, but if we can probably talk about this after the meeting or either tomorrow to see if we can leave the exhibition in there, that would be grateful. That will conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Ashton, do you have any comments?
I have nothing to report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, welcome to our city council meeting. Thank you for participating virtually. I first wanted to start off with congratulating Priscilla Coronado, Downey alumnus, on being elected first Latina president by Harvard Law Review. She will be recognized at one of our future council meetings, but I do want to thank all those residents who shared her post or the news about her receiving this distinguished honor. So as Downey Mayor and our council, we always want to make sure that we honor those who have made an impact here in the city of Downey. Some events that I attended on January 26th, I also had the pleasure of attending our chief's swearing in. Congratulations to Chief Murray. She's already doing a fantastic job, and I'm looking forward to continue to work with you. I can barely see you, but you're somewhere over there. Also, on February 28th, I had also had the pleasure of attending the NAREP Gala with my council colleague, Frometa. These are professional men and women within the real estate industry that help empower the Latino community by providing a pathway to homeownership. So it was an honor to have received that invitation. And it was nice that it was here in the city of Downey.
Yes, it was.
Also, last Tuesday, I attended St. Raymond's Career Day and spoke to the students over at St. Raymond's. This is always a lot of fun, talking to the students and hearing what they want to do when they grow up. I remember when I was a kid, I used to hear more students wanting to be an attorney, and now I'm surprised that only one or two want to be an attorney. They all want to be everything else, from firefighter to police officer to pop stars. But everybody was, all the kids were dressed up in their whatever they wanted to do when they got older. But I have to say, law enforcement and firefighter were really popular. And some direction to staff. So today on my street, on Puritan Street, the electricity went out on half of my street. It was only the south side. Fortunately, I'm on the north side. But we weren't given notice. I don't think the residents in my street were given notice. We were given notice about the electricity being out, or there was going to be a power outage in a couple of days. But the residents on the other side of my street, unfortunately, weren't given any notice that today there would be a power outage. So I want to see if in the future we could be on top of that. I felt bad for my neighbor who lived across the street.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll communicate with Edison and make sure that those notices are getting out in a timely fashion. So we'll do that.
I wanted to add something about it. It's not only in your street. It actually happened to one of the shopping centers like 2 weeks ago without noticing as well. So that would be great if they can talk to them.
Madam
Okay.
Mayor, if I may add something else when you're done.
Sure. Sure. After I'm done? Okay.
After you're done.
So just that, and also there is a bill that is about to be introduced or will be introduced, and it relates to street racing. So it's a street racing bill. It's by Senator Stern, So I want to see if we could possibly track that bill, because I know that street racing has been a concern here in Downey, but also in our neighboring cities. So just want to make sure we track that bill and see how it's doing, and if we need to call Sacramento, we can do so. And also, I wanted to direct staff to see if we could look into having a policy on using PLA or community workforce agreements for any major constructions here in the city of Downey. I know some of our surrounding cities have done so, and it actually benefits the cities, which ensure local hire and provide apprenticeship programs. And I think that's a wonderful thing for the residents here in our city, and I think it's a win-win for everybody. So I'd like to see if staff can look into this.
We'll bring something back.
And then lastly, I want to see if we can set up a future meeting, subcommittee for the Rio Hondo Golf Course. Subcommittee, I believe it's Councilmember Trujillo and I that sit on that. I still want to have that discussion about helping our nonprofits and seeing what else we can do to help them from our Kiwanis Club, Rotary. We also have our Downey Police and Fire Foundation.
We'll get that set up.
Okay, and Councilmember Frometa?
Yes, thank you. I neglected to mention during my asks for staff that we were made aware of the current condition of the business that used to be the Denny's. And it looks like it's in such dilapidated manner. The area, and I know that that is a private property, but if we can please contact the owners. It looks like people have been going in there, potential squatters, and some graffiti in that area. It really poses a safety concern. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all.
Thank you. And I did want to mention one more thing to Downey residents. We have some KN95 masks and hand sanitizers that will be distributed to the people within the community. We got 40,000 masks, and they will be distributed at the Barbara J. Riley Center Monday through Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Wednesday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Don't expect everybody to memorize those dates and times, but they are on social media. And if there's any questions, you can always call us here at City Hall at our COVID number. Again, this will be posted on our social media. Okay, and if there's no other comments, we will proceed on. Next up, we have several public hearings. The first public hearing is Municipal Code Amendments to comply with Senate Bill 9, introduce an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Downey, adding Section 9965 to Chapter 9 of Article 9 of the Downey Municipal Code relating to urban lot splits and amending Section 9312.08 of Chapter 3 of Article 9 of the Downey Municipal Code relating to two-unit projects in the R1 zone, and determining the ordinance to be exempt from CEQA. The hour of having arrived, the public hearing is now open. The time is 7:08 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, do you have proof of publication?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second to receive and file the publication?
Second?
Is there a motion, Andy?
Second?
Thank you. City Clerk Duarte, can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Frometa?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton?
Yes.
And Mayor Pacheco.
Yes. City Manager Rivas, do we have a staff report?
Madam Mayor, we do have one prepared, but this is actually, we just took this item last meeting and we did a presentation. If you want us to do it again, we can go ahead and do it. If not, we can just move into the public comment portion of it. But it's up to you.
I think we can move into public comment if we
Okay.
just had the presentation last week.
Yeah, we just had it last time.
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, I will now open this item up for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the city council regarding the public hearing item may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted written comments, your comments will be read into the record, and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the council regarding this item. City Clerk Duarte, have we received any written correspondence to be read into the record?
We have, Mayor. The first written comment is from Connie Patin. Dear Downey City Council, this letter is in regards to PLN-22-0004 Zone Text Amendment, amend sections of Chapter 3 and Chapter 9 of the Municipal Code regarding urban lot splits and 2-unit projects within single-family residential R1 zones. Please read this out loud. Please read it into the record. Please put into the formal records at the Downey City Council meeting. To whom it may concern, after reading the very lengthy and detailed 33-page Downey Planning Commission Agenda Resolution regarding the above zone tax amendment, I'm left with many unclear issues. I simply want to point them out as best I can. Please excuse the lengthy and rambling nature. The amendment is quite lengthy and detailed. There are numerous situations that are bound to come up depending on the lot being considered, especially if it's a lot with an alley as additional public access, or corner lots, or very long, narrow lots when considering lot splits. When you have a corner lot, especially a large corner lot somewhere in the 5,000 to 10,000 square foot range, it seems like there should be a lot of allowances made, especially because you have 2 street frontages. Things like driveway access, numerical addresses, setbacks, utilities, sewers, electrical panel, main line, and their respective locations. And I can't imagine all of the things, probably dozens of them, but certainly things that have not been addressed here in this hearing or in the amendment. It's not like you or anyone can be expected to address all of these many details that are not predictable or known today, and also the decisions made in this legislation could have many unintended consequences that would actually make it unobtainable for a homeowner to have additional housing, even though that is the state's exact objective. This impact could haunt us for years and years to come. Considerations. Things like easements running through the existing lot, or even setbacks that may be being a little bit less than what is in this legislation, depending on each housing lot's unique situations. Or what if you're just a little shy of the 2,400 feet? Or what if the lot line isn't perfectly straight but needs to be jogged in order to create the lot split? Or what does access from public right-of-way mean? Could the new lot have a driveway that allows that access, so a really deep lot could be split, allowing for the intention of the... Next correspondence is from Trevor Rodriguez. Dear Downey City Council, this letter is in regards to PLN-22-0004. Please read this out loud. Please read it into the record. Please put into the formal records at the Downey City Council meeting. It just seems like there's a lot of complicated details here that I can't even predict. I can't foresee what kind of obscure things that might be asked for in the future. It would really cost a lot of money to hire a lawyer, so I think the city should have somebody available for free or reasonable costs to walk people through it, like an advocate for the citizen who is independent of city influence and helps the average citizen navigate the intention of state law when the time comes that somebody wants to try to sift through all of these various rules, regulations, and requirements. They can be complicated. There clearly lies the potential of overly regulating the unknowing citizen and thus preventing the lot split and potential 2 units per lot. The state law indicates that the city can impose objective standards to protect the character of single-family neighborhoods, a very important consideration. But this goal could easily become a deterrence to the state-maintained objective, especially to the unknowledgeable homeowner. It becomes even more ambiguous when SB 9 states that objective standards may apply, as long as the standards do not prevent urban lot splits or the development of 2 units on a lot. What the heck does that mean? It's unclear. Does that mean that the city has to find a way to allow the particular lot split and duplex? Or could it be more broadly interpreted to mean that the lot splits and duplexes can be done somewhere else in the city, but just not on your lot? That allows a lot of subjectivity, which is the entire objective of the state law, to remove that subjectivity on a local level and to find ways to create more housing. Finding that balance depending on the particular seal to protect what an ministerial reviewer might feel is too much density or altering the character of the neighborhood. One planners believe that an altering of the neighborhood character has occurred might unwittingly prevent or hinder the attempt of the homeowner to pursue the additional housing mandate intended by the state law. A reasonable and common sense request could easily become bogged down and spiral to frustration and eventual abandonment of the pursuit by the homeowner when in reality he had the right to the additional housing he was seeking. But out of frustration or simple intimidation of the process and disparate authority influence relationship, many homeowners, due to that power, okay, the next correspondence is from Garrett Rodriguez. Dear Downey City Council, many restrictions are imposed to be allowed the project. You might be asked if the property is your primary residence. There's restrictions about renting it. There's restrictions about selling it. It gets very complicated, especially if you have exceptions in your life that might require you to have to sell it or maybe not live in it, or what your extended family might want or need to live there. And what is the homeowner definition of primary residence? Possibly fair allowances like split families, occupancy part-time, or multi-generational family situations, or multiple family ownership and some occupy while some don't. What about adult children living in the residence? Some on title, different types of title holdings, all of those things become very complicated, and I don't know if that's all being addressed here at this time, but it might become important in the future. Utilities are also a real challenge. You definitely want to have the ADU 1 unit, 2 units to have separate utilities. So sometimes how those utilities get there from the city connection is of concern. How they're paid for or how they're assessed could become challenging issues in the future, but I can't quite put my head around right now. Minimum and maximum lot width and depth and setbacks between existing structures, if they are live-in structures versus just garages. Can also be feasible homeowner requests for variances or exceptions requested and unreadably denied, which can't all be considered in a hearing like this. There might be some issues about how many houses on your block are allowed to do this. Maybe somebody might try to restrict somebody else because they think the block has too many, or they just don't like the idea of additional density on their street. What about parking and off-street parking? I know they say that you can't require that, but maybe somebody wants to have parking on their lot. Maybe that person should be given a greater allowance in their project because they're actually creating off-street parking and helping the neighborhood parking density issue. But maybe they're then told that they are restricted somehow, when logically they should be given more allowance. Are you going to then be forced to bring the old structure into compliance before the new structure, which is going to alleviate the housing crisis to be built, especially if it might help moderate our low-income housing people or extended family members that may or may not be homeless or meet requirements for earnings below the poverty level? A lot of ADU 1, Unit 2 units.
This is all from the same family?
Yes. There's 3 more. This is from Darren Rodriguez. Dear Downey City Council, this letter is in regards to PLN-22-0004. Please read this out loud. Please read it into the record. Please put into the formal records at the Downey City Council meeting. When you read section 5800 and through 5885, you have every single paragraph and subsection therein. All of that detail and possible exceptions or variances become extremely onerous and lengthy. Those sections and subparagraphs therein that discuss all of the various exceptions could become important in the future and could make the difference between allowing a new structure or structures or even a lot split that could create more housing and alleviate the housing crisis, especially when it might relate to moderate or low-income people or families that either live there or potentially could live there, including family relations. I know the law talks about an 800 square foot structure, but it doesn't seem clear if that includes parking, if they chose to have off-street parking. An off-street parking carport area or garage alone would be about 200 feet. So it probably couldn't include that because when your house would only be 600 square feet. So maybe this means the structure, not including the garage. What about off-street parking and then more leniency on the restrictions? But those kinds of things don't seem clear when they say 25 feet setback. A lot of people are confused if that means the curb or the end of the sidewalk, and what if your structure is already less than 25 feet, or if the existing street house line conforms to your sidewalk, and what if your structure is already less than 25 feet, or if the existing street house line conforms to a setback of less than 25 feet, or if it's a corner lot with 25 feet on the front but less than 25 feet on the side street. Corner lots are very unique and need additional considerations and leniency to not be limiting to those homeowners. What if somebody just wants to split the lot and do nothing more? Say the lot is empty, say it has an old structure that's not to code. What would those ramifications mean? These aren't just one-off questions. These are a lot of questions and concerns that someone in planning will have to decide on, own, and make a judgment call impacting and/or limiting homeowners. The next correspondence is from Sherry Eats. Dear Downey City Council, this letter is in regards to PLN-22-0004. Please read this out loud into the record and put into the formal records at the Downey City Council meeting. There are a lot of gray zones that no one can predict right now. I saw that the maximum height at roof peak can only be 22 feet tall with a typical raised foundation of 3 feet, 8 feet ceilings, a space of 3 feet between floors, then 8 feet ceiling would then leave nothing for a roof slope. The possibility of a second floor is virtually eliminated, thus preventing the possibility in many cases of the second unit. This apparent objective standard actually becomes a clear deterrent, specifically in contradiction to the state intention of increased housing. Again, the law states that objective guidelines can be placed as long as they don't prevent the development of 2 units. Not being allowed a second story clearly could prevent that development. The homeowner, I guess, would have to build a flat roof with no slope to achieve the 22 feet height restriction. that would serve to only devastate the architectural appearance of the neighborhood. In addition, the current ordinance is written such that the new structure has to match the existing structure's roof pitch. If the existing structure's roof pitch doesn't exactly match, would the applicants be denied? This is especially problematic with the objective restriction of 22 feet high without a clear allowances for variance, not subject to the personal discretion of the particular planner. I noticed the Downey Planning Commission resolution amendment refers to floor area being more than 500 square feet but less than 800 square feet. But the SB 9 states the size of the units are to be 800 square feet or more. It seems the Downey Planning Commission resolution amendment is incorrectly limiting the size of the structure to 500 through 800 square feet, when it should read 800 square feet or more. Also, the clause under building and safety states that the lot must comply with all current local building standards and that an urban lot split is a change of use. I'm not sure what that even means or what the impact that would have on the mandates of Senate Bill 9. Section 12K1 states the new structure must not just have public right-of-way access, but adds that the access be a paved street at least 40 feet wide. So that would eliminate anyone with a large, deep lot who accesses their property by way of the alley, even if the alley is, say, 15 feet wide. And the last correspondence is from Jim Rodriguez. Dear Downey City Council, this letter is in regards to PLN-22-0004. Please read this out loud into the record and put into the formal records at the Downey City Council meeting. Item number 9 makes no sense. This would imply that no standard windows could exist on even the first floor, except facing the street. Only windows 2 feet high from the ceiling would be allowed, regardless if there were any line of sight issues or not. You could be facing a 6-foot block wall 4 feet from your neighbor, and you could not have a regular window. It feels like to me that this and possibly other clauses are there to discourage projects. The claim can be made that the project is not being physically precluded as required by SB 9, but in essence has the same effect. Sure, you can build your one-story project, you just can't have any windows unless they're 6 feet off the ground. Am I reading that right? Is that the intention? There are other similar subtle barriers like this throughout the Downey Planning Commission resolution that would cause the well-intentioned average citizen to give up their pursuit of adding additional housing on their property and have the practical effect of preventing urban lot splits or 2 units on a lot as required by SB 9. The overlapping of Section 9965 lot splits and 9312.08C 2-unit projects creates a number of unforeseen conflicts and interpretations that could also frustrate many citizens' attempt to pursue the benefits and intentions of SB 9. The code amendment states that the project can be denied ministerially by the planning director, but provides no remedy, recourse, guidance, or alternatives to disputes, disagreements, or reasonable interpretations between the parties. This, too, I believe, will lead to inevitable discouragement of an applicant's attempt to navigate the intricacies of the complex 33-page ordinance and related Senate bill, especially when up against the disparate knowledge and power relationship inherent in the application process between a novice homeowner and a seasoned and experienced city planner. Many of these objective standards created in this ordinance serve as a de facto discretionary review process in and of themselves. I understand that the intent is to create these objective standards in order to preserve the character of single-family neighborhoods, and I agree with that objective. I'm just concerned that the resolution, that is all, Mayor, on the written comments. And we do have some calls that came in.
Let's go ahead.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking. Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yes, BC from District 3. Let's cut to the quick here. Let's knock out all the garbage. We only want single-family dwellings. We don't want duplexes. We don't want to live around a bunch of duplexes. If you want to live like that, move to East LA and you can have all the duplexes you want. Now, if you start adding duplexes, it's going to go ahead and it's going to cramp the style of many people. You're going to have your community gardens or anything like that because you're going to have to take that territory up and not have those flourish like Mr. Trujillo wants. Or you won't be able to have the romanticized hunter-gatherer tribes like the Tonga tribe, like Miss Alvarez wants, to be able to forage around to survive on this land that is occupied. So let's move into the 21st century, and we only want single-family dwellings. That's all we want. That's why we bought our home in Downey, and we don't want to live like East LA or Norwalk or any of those places. If you want to live like that, move there. We like Downey, single-family dwellings. Thank you very much.
That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted to announce that Councilmember Alvarez had to leave because she's not feeling well. Okay. No other speakers? No. Thank you. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second? Second. So ordered by the mayor. Is there any further discussion as to this item? Any questions?
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Yeah, so I apologize. I missed the presentation from last week in person. I just had a couple of quick questions. One more of a statement. So, like in regards to the caller that just spoke, via phone, this, just to clarify, this is not something that the city of Downey is instigating. This is something that has been passed down from the state to us to do. So, just to clarify, this is not something that we're trying to do on our own. This is something that we're doing to conform to state law. Am I correct, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Councilmember Ashton, that's absolutely correct. This is something that is, again, one of those mandates from the state. We are required to do this. What we've done is try to at least limit the impact of SB 9 on the city and try to put some guardrails on it too, so it's not the complete Wild West. This is not something that we actually sought to implement. It's something that's been implemented upon the city.
Okay. So then my second question, I don't know if we have this number readily available, but maybe if not, just if you can come back to me later, but approximately how many lots are eligible under this ordinance?
Crystal, I don't know if you know that offhand. If not, we can always come back with that information.
We would have to come back with it, but R1 zones in general are the majority throughout the city. So that's
It's significant.
yeah.
But not all R1s would qualify into this due to the size of them, or?
Yes, all R1 zones would qualify.
Okay. Alrighty. And then my final question would be, so if we do incorporate some of these new units that might be developed, would that qualify for our next public hearing item on the regional needs housing assessment?
That is something that staff did look into with our consultant. It's something that the state is forcing us to do. We were trying to look to see if we can accommodate or account for any of those potential units, since this is something that we're being forced into. Our consultant can speak to it a little bit further. There's a small percentage, since we don't have any numbers to go off of. We took whatever credits we could, but it wasn't a big adjustment.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And if nobody else has any other questions, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. That would be a motion to introduce the ordinance tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
There'd be a motion to introduce the ordinance. And a second by Councilmember Fermetta?
Yes. And again, if I may, I wanted to thank our city manager for clarifying, and Councilmember Ashton for also clarifying what the caller said, because this is not something that the city is moving forward with because the city wants to. This is in response to the mandate, the SB9. And so, as you've indicated, is to provide those guardrails that we believe are important. We need to comply, but we need to provide better guidance within it. So, yes, second by me, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Ashton and Councilmember Fermetta. We have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance. City Clerk Duarte, can we please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yes, sorry.
So this is a motion to, did you say present?
Introduce the ordinance?
Introduce. So I'm kind of new to this still, okay?
It's okay.
My first year, and so it's going to be introduced, and then later on, there'll be, what's the next step?
And your next meeting, you'll adopt. You'll do an adoption of the ordinance.
Okay, and then will somebody like Mr. Rodriguez be able to come in? Here's what I have some concerns. I was listening to what he was saying, and he's a former planning commissioner, highly regarded member of our community, real estate investor. And what I heard him say is, if somebody wants to split their lot, the way that it's built in, it's giving all the power basically to the city, which I understand. Obviously, we need to control certain things, but here's what I trust our staff is going to do. If there's projects that just destroy the character of a neighborhood, we don't want that. Right? But I know that this city, our staff is really meticulous about, man, y'all get into design, controlling people's color. I mean, you guys get really in there. I thought too much power to the city, to be honest. And what I don't want that. I think it needs to be, if somebody like Jim Rodriguez, who I trust, wants to come in and build a duplex, and to the caller that said that Downey doesn't have duplexes, I have news for you. I live in a duplex, dude. And it kind of does look like East LA, this part of Downey. So I don't know where he lives in the 3rd District, the Orange Estates, right? Yeah, we are going to get new duplexes, people. It's coming to Downey. So I don't know but I like to look into this ordinances, and I want people like Jim Rodriguez to be able to come in. And so do we need to take, this is the introduction of the ordinance, is there a deadline that we have to take a vote for an actual ordinance by, like March, April, May?
Remember, the current planning commission also reviews this process. It's gone through our planning commission.
Madam
It's gone
Mayor,
through the
if
planning
I-
commission as well.
Madam Mayor, if I can provide a little bit of clarification to that. I do understand that this is something that's very new. Anytime that we have something new, there's always a lot of questions about the what ifs and the different scenarios. The reason why the ordinance has so many different sections and subsections and provisions to it, is to try to make sure that we're accommodating as best we can for what all those different provisions are. The language that's in there that I believe was referenced through one of the emails, where so long as 2 units will be allowed, that is the entire premise of Senate Bill 9, and that's what staff kept in mind when we were putting that ordinance together. So yes, while we did make sure that we were trying to make sure that our objective, and we were very clear on keeping things as objective as possible, because that's the language that was in the bill. All of those things are in there, are objective design standards, they're checklist items. So it's you check a box, you meet it or you don't. It's very clear. We have no discretion in those areas. In regard to if you, we did, and we stated in the presentation last week that we're encouraging 1-story development, because in the different examples that we had shown, 1-story seemed to be better in regard to massing, which is something that the community told us they were concerned about. But there is provisions if they wanted a 2-story, and we need a 2-story to make 2 units fit on a lot. There are provisions for that. You can do that, but the second floor just has to be stepped in a little bit more than the first floor. Again, just to make sure we're maintaining characteristics. All of those things are objective. They're not subjective up to staff. And we have, since the urgency ordinance was put in place, worked with different residents and explained these steps to them. And when somebody does come to our planning counter, they're walking away understanding what they need to do to move forward.
Okay. So seeing that this is just a motion to, what is the term, present? Introduce the ordinance, I understand. I would like a meeting, please, set up between, I would like to be invited along with somebody from planning and Mr. Rodriguez. So if we could set that up so that I could be prepared to address this further, because I heard his concerns, and I have a little bit of concerns about the fact that this doesn't sound like the city, because our reputation is that we're not business friendly to some people, okay? Our reputation is that our planning department is very always anti-resident, people trying to come in here and improve their properties, and we give them a hard time. That's a reputation. We've all heard about it, okay? And so if we're gonna truly address this SB 9, we're gonna do it in a way that, I'm not necessarily saying we're gonna give away the house to developers, but we are going to get some duplexes. They just got to look good. They got to fit into the community, and we're going to address those things. But I want to do something about repairing our reputation that our planning department is not resident friendly. And so I want people like Jim Rodriguez to come in here and tell us how we can make it. I'm going to use it, resident friendly. If I'm a homeowner and I want to add a duplex and the law allows me to do that, I don't want the city to get in my way. So let's set up that meeting, please, and then thank you. That's all.
And if correct me if I'm wrong, City Attorney Livas, but I believe this ordinance would only to make sure that we maintain as much local control as possible. I think these are 2 different issues. One of them is making sure we're more friendly to residents who want to do more projects in their home, and the other one is this ordinance, which has to do with maintaining as much local control as we can within the city of Downey.
Yeah.
And not giving free rein to developers who want to take advantage of SB 9.
Yeah, so look, this issue is a very delicate balancing act, because you have, at the same time, for example, you have folks that want historical preservation, they want to preserve neighborhoods, they want to preserve the single-family dwellings that they moved into. And we have parking issues, right? That's the big issue in our 3 zones. Once you start dividing them up into duplexes and fourplexes, whatever parking issues you thought you had now, they're going to be multiplied, right? So the state has come in and says, we don't care. You don't have to have parking. You don't have to have any of these things to create a duplex. And we are saying in this introduction is that we get it. The state is going to mandate that our 3 zones, single family, you're going to have duplexes. What this does is merely try to at least be able to have some architectural say in terms of how those things are set into a residential neighborhood. For example, if you can get some setbacks in a neighborhood where the neighbor, isn't have a 18-foot wall two-story place right next to them, and they can set it back a little bit to allow a little bit of air and light through there. Those are the kinds of things that this does. The state has already spoken. We have to do what we have to do. What we have to do is sort of balance these things in the neighborhoods that they're occurring in. And so, and we can certainly do that, and we'll be happy to sit down with Mr. Rodriguez. He's a planning commissioner. He was a former planning commissioner, so he certainly would be well-versed in this as well. So those are things that we would be happy to do that. As far as residents coming in, we'll walk them through this bill, because this is new. This is happening all over the state. We'll walk them through the process. One of the things that I did when I first started here, we used to have a design review board. I got rid of the design review board because we eliminated the amount of steps that you would have in order to get a project approved. So it's a balancing act between letting neighborhoods go and owners do what they want, but at the same time trying to preserve the charm of some neighborhoods or improve the neighborhoods that need improvement. So it's not easy, but we would be happy to sit down with Mr. Rodriguez and yourself to go over some of these items.
And there was a couple other people who wrote some very lengthy, detailed emails on this issue. Perhaps we should invite them as well.
They're all from the same, sorry, they're all from the same family.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
really Mr. Rodriguez.
Oh, it's Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
It's all
he can
Mr.
bring his
Rodriguez.
family then. You know, but I always want to thank residents who take the time to. I mean, that took a lot of work. I want to make sure they know they're being heard, and I did hear what they say, and I do have some concerns. But again, I want to let our residents know that I trust our staff to look out for you. If you're a homeowner and you have beautiful single-family residence, of course we want to protect your neighborhood. You know, we're not here to destroy neighborhoods, but there are going to be some lots that are going to be split, and we should facilitate that process and not get in the way of having these duplexes come in. And no, it's not going to look like East LA. We're working on the parts that look like East LA right now, trying to get rid of some of these ugly chain link fences that we still see. But thank you. It's a different issue.
Okay, so I think there was a motion and a second. Can we take a roll call vote?
Yes, I have Councilmember Alvarez absent, Councilmember Frometa, yes, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton,
Yes.
and Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez absent.
Thank you. The second item on our public hearing agenda is adopt 2021-2029 Housing Element Update and corresponding California Environmental Quality Act Initial Study Negative Declaration. Adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Downey adopting a California Environmental Quality Act Negative Declaration and General Plan Amendment, thereby updating the housing element for the 2021-2029 Sixth Regional Housing Needs Assessment Cycle. The hour having arrived, the public hearing is now open. The time is 7:47. City Clerk Duarte, do we have a proof of publication?
We do, Mayor.
Can I have a motion, a second, to receive and file the publication? Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
City Clerk Duarte, can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Councilmember Alvarez is absent, Councilmember Frometa,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton,
Yes.
and Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez absent.
Thank you. City Manager Rivas, do we have a staff report?
Madam Mayor, we do have a staff report. I'm going to actually kick this off to Mr. Schindler, and he can go ahead. I think we have a consultant that will be presenting this item.
Yes, thank you, City Manager. Madam Mayor and Council, we do have our subject matter expert, project manager with MIG Urban Planning that's going to make the presentation. Housing elements are an enormous endeavor that all cities throughout the state are embarking on. We've all heard about the exorbitant regional housing need assessment numbers that cities have been burdened with, and that's to allow zoning for those large numbers. We've had multiple community meetings, study sessions with our Planning Commission. We've met with our City Council Affordable Housing Subcommittee as well, and shared information with the remaining council. Tonight, we're here to adopt the housing element so that we could submit it to the state of California. With that, I'd like to turn over the presentation to Diana Gonzalez from MIG, and she's going to do the presentation via Zoom tonight.
Good evening, members of the City Council. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm going to give an overview of the housing element tonight, as Mr. Schindler indicated. We've been working on with the city, and there are many components to updating a housing element, but we've chosen some key parts of the process and parts of the content of the document to talk about with you. As you know, the housing element is a part of the city's general plan and lays out the housing goals, policies, and programs to guide housing-related actions. It's also among the general plan elements unique in that it's the only element that must be reviewed and approved for compliance by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, which we refer to as HCD. Excuse me. The cycle that we're in is the sixth cycle, and it covers the time period of 2021 to 2029. Housing elements are updated about every 8 years. The adoption deadline for this cycle was October 15th, but jurisdictions have 120 days to adopt. And because of the complexity of this cycle, most cities in the region are taking this extra time. State law requires that the city have a current housing element and specifies that cities have a responsibility to facilitate the improvement and development of housing. The housing element is considered current when it's updated to reflect the latest RHNA numbers, a topic we'll review in more detail in a few minutes. Now, the sixth cycle is different than previous updates for several reasons. The first reason is that the RHNA for this cycle is significantly higher because the state's identification of the region's total housing need has changed. And so that resulted in larger numbers for the state, for every jurisdiction in the state. Also, many laws have been passed that have added new and more stringent requirements to the housing element, which makes it more challenging to update. And the law has actually also added, given HCD more responsibility over oversight of the process and over compliance. And finally, updating the element requires a robust public participation strategy, which has been challenging to do during a global pandemic because of the associated public gathering limitations. Now, the housing element document itself has 5 main components. These different parts are used to establish existing or baseline conditions, and they include information such as population and housing characteristics, regulatory constraints to housing development. It identifies the land resources available to meet the city's need. And it also includes an evaluation of how the last housing element was implemented. Now, a new law also went into effect in 2021 that requires a very in-depth analysis related to fair housing. All of these components are the foundation for the housing plan, and that plan includes the city's housing goals, policies, and implementing programs. Another key part of the update is community participation. And for this housing element update, that included 2 workshops, a community survey, a web page, and to ensure that we reached a wide audience of residents and the Downey community in general. The community was notified of meetings and participation opportunities via the city's social media accounts in both English and Spanish. Also through emails from the Parks and Recreation Department. The notices were posted in utility bills and of course on the city's webpage. Housing element law requires that the city make a diligent effort to reach persons in lower income households and special needs residents, like the elderly or persons with disabilities. To do this, the city notified a list of agencies and organizations that serve these communities in Downey and in the surrounding areas. This included community organizations, civic and religious groups, housing developers, and local businesses. Both of the workshops were accessible to the Spanish-speaking community. While the workshops were virtual, they had dedicated rooms where the presentation and the discussion was conducted in Spanish. The community also had the option to complete the survey in Spanish. The survey received just under 1,000 responses, which is a great turnout for this type of outreach. Now, the key themes that emerged from that outreach included the biggest one is the need for more affordable housing, a desire for housing programs and policies to consider residents first, an interest in new housing near transit-oriented developments. There was also an openness to revisit the city's land use policies to see how the city can better address the need, including potentially having less restrictive development standards. There was also support expressed for new types of housing, such as accessory dwelling units or ADUs and tiny houses. Comments were also received that showed concern for climate change, parking, safety, and traffic. Of course, not every topic that was broached can be addressed fully in the housing element, but the city has made a concerted effort to use the input received to inform the RENA strategy, which we'll be reviewing in a few minutes. A key part of the housing element is showing where the city can accommodate future housing by accommodating the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RHNA, a term you've heard much about. The RHNA is the state's way of allocating each city and county in the state a fair share of the region's forecasted growth. And it directs all the local jurisdictions to accommodate the allocation in its general plans and zoning. Now, the RHNA starts with the state calculating how much new housing is needed for the whole state and assigns a number to the different regions in the state. For SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments, the assignment was just over 1.3 million new units. Now, SCAG takes that number, develops a methodology, and distributes those units to all the cities in the region. For this planning period, the city of Downey received a RHNA of 6,525 units, and it must show that there's enough land zoned in the city for housing to accommodate this allocation. This RHNA is more than 5 times the RHNA from the last planning period, and it's going to be a challenge to meet given that there were less than 500 units built in the last planning period. Now, the city has appealed this allocation, and that appeal was denied, as was the appeal by most cities. Last I checked, I believe there were 47 appeals in the SCAG region, and only 2 were actually successful. The city has joined regional efforts to continue to challenge the RHNA, but currently this is the number that we have to work with and show in the housing element. So how can the cities meet the RHNA? The first step in meeting the RHNA is to look at housing that is expected to be built in the planning period, such as approved or pipeline projects. So a project that may have been approved but doesn't have permits yet, as long as it falls within the planning period, which again started at the middle of last year. Now, although generally we can say where there's general capacity for new housing, the law requires that we show specific sites or specific parcels where we think housing will be developed and can be developed to meet the RHNA. And those are chosen based on many factors: what's currently developed on those sites, the size of the site, ownership patterns, and just an assessment of what the realistic potential for development during this planning period is. And I'll touch more on this in a couple of slides as well. The other thing we have to look at is affordability, because the RHNA is broken down into affordability levels, which tells the cities how many units need to be designed for each income level. So the RHNA has 4 income levels ranging from extremely and very low, which includes households that earn 50% or less of the county median income, and they go all the way to above moderate, which are households that earn 120% or more of the county median income. But it's impossible for the city to predict with 100% certainty what type of housing will be developed and how much that housing will cost. So state law allows the city to use density as a way to make that determination. So in Downey and in most cities in Los Angeles County, with a population, I believe the threshold is 25,000 residents, If a property allows housing development at a density of 30 units per acre or higher, the city can take credit for the lower income RHNA categories. There's other factors, but this is the main factor determining affordability. The chart here shows a range of housing and assumptions that can be made about affordability. For example, from the left, the larger single family, most single family in the city of Downey, the cost will probably land in the higher income categories, where ADUs and maybe multifamily housing has the potential to be more affordable. Before we get into the site's inventory detail and the RHNA discussion, it's important to note that the RHNA isn't a construction obligation. The city doesn't have to build 6,500 or so units. The role of the housing element is to show that the city's land use policies allow for this level of development. It also this housing element doesn't approve any housing. All the individual projects still have to go through the application review process. So the first step in meeting the RHNA is to look at housing that is expected to be built in the planning period. We looked at approved projects. We looked at ADU estimates based on the city's track record for permitting ADUs. We also evaluated the potential for new housing under the city's current land use policy. So where is there housing capacity without making any changes to the city's general plan or zoning? Now, although we can show that there are areas of the city that can accommodate housing, like the downtown Downey specific plan, again, we have to show specific sites or parcels where we think housing would be developed. In Downey, the residential capacity that we've identified is in the R1 and R2 properties. There are very, very few units in those zones. But most existing sites are located in the downtown Downey specific plan and in the newly approved Rancho Los Amigos South Campus specific plan. As you see here, total sites identified in these areas add up to just under 3,000 units, which means that there are still about 3,500 units that are needed to meet the RHNA. And so from here, we go to the next step of our RHNA strategy. To address those 3,500 units, we looked at where new housing could be built if there were changes to the city's land use policy. After looking at the potential to add housing capacity, a strategy was formulated that focuses on higher density areas, mixed use areas, and in commercial areas where residential potential can be added, for example, along commercial corridors or on commercial centers. This strategy would be implemented after the adoption of the housing element through an update of the general plan and zoning. And I'll review each part of the strategy in the next slides. In addition to helping meet the RHNA, the strategy that we've come up with also addresses some land use policies issues and inconsistencies. It encourages transit-oriented development, and it ensures an efficient and a comprehensive land use update process. I also want to point out that several parts of this strategy match some of the ideas that emerged from the public outreach. In the community survey, one of the themes that emerged was a desire to balance future development across the city with support for new housing or transit corridors. And specifically, there was support for locating future housing along major corridors and within existing commercial shopping centers, as well as increasing the number of housing units in higher density and mixed use areas. The first part of the strategy is looking at areas designated for higher density development, such as the city's medium density residential R3 zoned areas. Current housing development in these areas is allowed at a maximum density of 24 units per acre. The strategy proposes increasing that maximum density to 40 units per acre. The intent is to provide an incentive for redevelopment of properties that may currently be underdeveloped. It's also important to note that this change does not affect current uses. They can continue. This approach would not create any non-conforming uses. This is an example of the redevelopment potential that we've identified. As I stated earlier, we're required to choose specific parcels, but this proposed change would apply to all MDR R3 properties in the city. When we choose sites, we look for properties like the one shown here. This is a small, I can't tell if it's a single family home or a duplex, but it's located between two apartment buildings, and they all have the same zoning and allow the same density. Now, all three of these sites can potentially redevelop in the next 8 years, but what we're looking for is sites that show the most potential for redevelopment, like the property in the middle, where the property owner, if they chose to do so, can redevelop the property to add more units. The property owner of this site would have more of an incentive to redevelop because they could add more units than the owners of the apartment buildings next door could. The second part of the strategy is to incentivize development in areas designated for mixed-use development. The current mixed-use general plan designation allows a density of up to 24 units per acre, but the city has not adopted an implementing zone for this designation. This strategy proposes updating the general plan and adopting a new mixed-use zone with a minimum density of 30 units per acre for housing. This strategy provides property owners many options. For example, a property owner can A, not do anything and maintain their existing uses. They can build a commercial or office use. C, they could build a standalone housing development, or they could build a combination of all these uses. For example, a mix of residential or commercial or office uses in like a mixed use development. As you can see on the map, most mixed use sites are at the southern end of the city, primarily along Lakewood Boulevard, just north and south of I-105. Again, current uses are still allowed and can continue. This approach would not create any non-conforming uses, but the change would make it easier to develop residential and mixed-use developments. The last step of this part of the strategy is to add housing as an option along the city's commercial corridors and commercial centers through a residential overlay. This overlay would apply to non-industrial, non-R1 zone properties along Telegraph Road, Firestone Boulevard, Imperial Highway, Paramount Boulevard, Lakewood Boulevard, and the eastern end of Florence Avenue. It would also apply to the Stonewood Center, Downey Landing, and it would apply to the Florence I-5 specific plan. Now, a residential overlay would give property owners an incentive to develop their property or to sell the property for new uses. In areas such as these where residential development is currently not allowed, an overlay can facilitate housing production by avoiding a lengthy general plan amendment or rezoning process. Again, current uses would be will be allowed. There's no non-conforming uses. Overlays can also allow a mix of uses, such as adding housing to an underused portion of a large site, like a parking lot. In areas such as the Stonewood Center, for example, the strategy doesn't assume that the current structure would be demolished, although that could potentially happen. The capacity we're assuming here is in the underused portions of the site. Now, these changes are not drastic because currently, if you drive these corridors, which I'm sure you do, they're lined with commercial uses interspersed by older residential uses. The overlay would just make it easier to develop residential and mixed-use developments if the property owners chose to do so. Based on the strategy we just presented and the specific sites that were chosen, the city can meet the RHNA with a small surplus. We like to have a small surplus units over the RHNA in case some of the sites don't redevelop as anticipated. I wanted to make one important note about the whole inventory. In the ideal world, you would have a thorough list of all the properties in the city that we are absolutely certain will redevelop in the next 8 years. And in an even more ideal world, we would have enough vacant land to do so, so it wouldn't affect current uses. But that's an impossible task in Downey and in most cities in LA County. Most communities here are fully built out, so we make the best effort to identify properties that have characteristics that lend themselves to redevelopment. For example, what did we do to make this best effort? We looked at sites that didn't have high density uses like condominiums or apartments, because we assumed that it would be harder for someone to redevelop because, rental housing could be lucrative with the increasing demand, increasing cost of rents. We also excluded older sites with gas stations, even if they're zoned or would allow residential, just because the development process would be more complex given the need to address underground storage tanks. We also looked at the age of structures. Most sites in the inventory are over 40 years old. In the downtown area, some of the sites have structures that are approaching 100 years old, but they're not of historical significance. We also looked at characteristics of existing uses, such as declining uses or properties with large underused portions of the site. When we talk about older uses, we look for signs of deferred maintenance or with no recent significant enhancements that have been made. We made that assumption that in high visibility areas of the city, these properties would lend themselves well to redevelopment to more intense uses. We looked at land values to see if there were financial incentives to redevelop for certain properties. And we also looked at the potential for lot consolidation. For example, if there was several small sites that were owned by the same person. There was also a few sites where the property owner reached out to the city and indicated they were interested in redeveloping the site for residential uses. When you're accommodating a RENA of over 6,500 units, it's impossible to compile a list with only sites that will redevelop with 100% certainty. Will there be sites that don't redevelop? Absolutely. Will there be sites that redevelop with uses that don't include residential? Yes. But there are checks in place, like the state's no net loss law. That states that the city has to monitor development of these sites. And if a proposed development comes in at a lower density or with fewer units than identified in the housing element, the city would show that the inventory still has enough capacity to absorb those units, or it would need to identify new sites for that one within 180 days. So this site's inventory is the city's good faith effort, and it will require keeping up with the inventory throughout the planning period. Now I'm going to switch to the housing plan. The housing plan lays out the city's housing goals, policies, and programs to guide housing-related actions. To update the plan, we looked at what was included in the previous housing element, and we revised those or updated those, or in some cases removed them, based on current information, current needs, current funding. We also added programs that addressed identified needs in the community, as well as changes that are required to respond to new laws. Housing element law requires that the plan address 5 topic areas: actions to make sure that there's land available to meet the RENA, actions to encourage development of housing, actions that address constraints to housing development, actions to help conserve and improve housing in Downey, and actions that address fair housing and ensures that all persons have equal opportunities. Each of these goals that are in the housing element is accompanied by a set of policies and implementing programs. The first goal is to encourage a variety of housing types to meet the existing and future needs of the city. Key programs under this goal establish how the city will meet the RENA, which we just reviewed, and they include the rezoning that is proposed, the land use changes that will occur, and actions to provide housing opportunities through ADU development, and exploring whether adoption of an inclusionary housing ordinance could potentially happen. The second goal is to assist in the development of adequate housing and provide resources to meet the needs of low and moderate income and special needs households. Programs under this goal include actions the city can take to assist in the development of housing to meet the needs of these types of households. And they include looking into what types of incentives or concessions could be offered to projects that provide affordable housing or special needs housing, and also supporting first-time home buyer and rental assistance programs. Goal 3 addresses and where it says that the city will address and where legally possible remove governmental constraints to housing for all income levels and persons with disabilities. And actions under this goal include addressing new laws, such as citing standards for certain types of housing, encouraging lot consolidation of smaller parcels to accommodate larger projects, and reviewing development standards periodically to make sure they facilitate and don't constrain housing development. Goal number 4 is to conserve and improve the condition of neighborhoods and existing housing, especially affordable housing. And programs under this goal include the city's code enforcement and housing rebate and grant program. Now, these are existing city programs, so the housing element identifies how the city will continue to use these programs to support housing preservation and neighborhood quality. Goal number 5 is to promote and affirmatively further fair housing and promote housing for the community. The program under this goal is much more substantial than what has been included in previous housing elements, because a new law requires that the city go beyond just fair housing and instead work toward equal opportunities, which means addressing disparities in access to housing, education, employment, transportation. Examples of programs under this goal include ensuring that there are procedures in place to provide equal access in city services and programs to all residents, including persons with limited proficiency in English or persons with disabilities. Also, prioritizing community and stakeholder engagement during controversial decisions. Now, the housing element update has included several phases, and they've all included a public outreach component. The initial draft of the housing element was released in September and submitted to the state for review. They had 60 days to review the element, and they provided findings to the city in November in a letter. Oops, I'm sorry. The findings letter they sent list specific additions or clarifications to the element. The comments received asked for additional analysis, edits to different parts of the elements. Overall, the comments focus on tightening up the sites inventory to make sure we were more clear on the methodology used to choose sites. They also asked for more information in the fair housing section. And this is a standard comment for all cities because it's a part of a new law and the state is refining what they want to see in this section. They asked for more information about some demographic data that's in the element, and they asked in the program section, they wanted to see more specific commitments the city would take to address housing need, and they wanted us to clarify the time frame for implementation. The element was resubmitted to the state in December, and the state must return their findings on that draft by mid-month this month, so in about a week and a half. And if any further substantial revisions are needed, the element will go through the public review process and may come before you again. The city is committed to continuing coordinating with the state to gain full compliance of the housing element. This is the end of my presentation. I appreciate your time and patience as I know it's a complicated process. I'll turn it back over to staff and I'll be available if you have any questions.
Thank you. That was very thorough. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from my colleagues?
No questions, just a comment. Thank you for the thorough presentation. And again, for those residents watching this via Zoom or our YouTube channel, this is such a comprehensive update, housing update. And again, just to reiterate the importance of being engaged, there were several community outreach events that were held. And again, it is so important to get our community to participate in all of this. As was indicated, a total of 991 individuals were the ones that participated. Is that correct? Yes, and again, this is a little less than 10% of our total population, but in something like this that is reviewed reviewed and updated every 8 years, it is extremely important for our residents to take the time to engage and really communicate with their city what it is their needs and their comments on this. So I just want to thank the staff and the report for doing such an excellent job in tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Councilmember Fremeta. Mayor Pro Tem Ashton, did you have any comments or questions?
No, I'm good. I just want to hear from public comment.
Okay, thank you. I will now open this item for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council regarding the public hearing item may now call our teleconference phone line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted written comments, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the council regarding this item. City Clerk Duarte, have we received any written correspondence to be read into the record?
Yes, Mayor, we do have one written comment. This correspondence is from Matthew Gelfand, Council of Californians for Home Ownership. To the Mayor and City Council, Californians for Home Ownership is a 501c3 nonprofit organization devoted to using legal tools to address California's housing crisis. Our organization is monitoring local compliance with the law governing housing elements. You are scheduled to consider adoption of the city's housing element at your upcoming meeting. The city's housing element was due to be adopted by October 15, 2021, and the city has been out of compliance with state housing law in the time since. The adoption of a legally valid housing element would bring the city into compliance with the law and help the city avoid certain penalties and reductions in local control that result from noncompliance. Unfortunately, the proposed before you would not achieve that goal. We have reviewed the draft housing element and adopting resolution provided with your agenda materials. We have also reviewed the letter the city received from the State Department of Housing and Community Development outlining its concerns about the city's draft, which we incorporate here in its entirety by reference. Californians for Home Ownership commented on the draft in a letter dated November 1st, 2021, and shared our concerns, and we additionally incorporate that letter here by reference. The city's draft does make some progress in addressing our concerns and those of the department. Unfortunately, we do not believe it goes far enough. Based on our review, we believe that if the city adopts the draft as planned, it will not bring the city into substantial compliance with state housing law, including the housing element law. Among other things, as we explain below, the draft does not provide adequate information about the non-vacant sites included on the city's sites inventory. The city's failure to bring itself into substantial compliance with housing element law will have significant consequences. As of October 15, 2021, the city lost essentially all of its control over housing development projects with significant lower income components, and it is prohibited from enforcing its zoning and general plan standards for those projects. See Government Code Section 65589.5 D5. And if the city fails to adopt a compliant housing element by February 12, 2022, it will be subject to additional penalties. See Government Code Section 65583C1A. What's more, the city's adoption of a non-compliant housing element will expose the city to the very serious risk of litigation. We urge you to continue this item so that staff can return with a compliant housing element. State law governing the use of That is all, Mayor, on the public comment.
Thank
On the
you.
written comments, I'm sorry. And we do have some phone calls.
Okay.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yeah, so I want to add to the comment that was just read out. So yes, the city is not compliant. It's very worrisome because housing is fundamental and a human right. Of course, the city refuses to do more to especially help needy families in this domain. And it's very unfortunate that we have a consultant who is being paid quite a bit of money, and then we have council members essentially lying with statistics. They're saying, oh, look, 900 people filled out this housing survey. But why is it that the survey is not actually representative of the community? Why is it that it's very easy to look at the figures 1 through 10 and see that the community is not actually being represented? Essentially, it's the very, very wealthy people, households that are represented. Where is the representation for everyone else? This is not good work. This should not stand. The city council should have commissioned a better person to do this. It's obvious that this is a play to make it seem that the community does not actually want, say, things like rent control. So your little survey there, again, it's pretty much straight out of that old book, How to Lie with Statistics. So that's what you're lying about. And, of course, as the previous call made very clear, you are not compliant with the law because you don't actually care about housing. You just go through the show, but it's not at all the case that you care, especially about the most vulnerable families. Say things like rent control.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Mommy, it's me, Mommy. Can you hear me, Mommy? Mommy.
Mr. Herman, stay on topic.
We're going to talk about housing, Mommy. How it discriminates against minority wetbacks that come from other states into our country and demand that they get housing for free. But, Mommy, you know there's no housing. You know there's no housing. Look at Mr. Rivas. He makes $300,000 a year. There's no housing. Housing's only for niggers. Rich niggers. Just like they're poor. And the report about discrimination against disabled persons is very accurate. There's not enough housing, and there's no such thing as affordable, you dumb cunts. KHUNTZs. So you have to learn, Mommy. If you're going to make statements that are false and not true about housing, learn to be quiet. Maybe take care of that pimple on your forehead before you talk. That way the public knows you're serious, Mommy. But where's Mommy Fermenta? She highlights in grandstands about housing? That's bullshit. Only 900 people spoke up and wrote in their opinions? That's bullshit. You sound like that idiot. Who's the idiot mayor? Mommy, have the idiot mayor grandstand and talk about housing because he don't know what he's talking about. He's such a fat idiot. Hey, Molly, maybe we could put a picture, a mural of your face on one of the buildings you're going to put homeless people in.
Mr. Herman, stay on topic.
We'll name it Pacheco Pimple Facilities of Downey off of Imperial and Inglewood. Yeah. Oh, look. Mommy Fermenta Kaiser's back. Maybe you could build housing underground in Kaiser.
Mr. Herman, stay on topic, please.
Second warning.
I'm talking about housing. Stop interrupting me. You racist. You people are
can hang up. Hang up.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yes, I'm a constituent of Downey, and I'd like to speak public comment about this.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm a constituent of Downey, and I'd like to speak public comment about this. Go ahead.
Mr. Martinez, you may go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Your
Okay,
time
yeah.
is running. Go ahead.
I just want to make it very clear that some of the numbers that I'm looking at seem to not be as accurate on the presentation of how many units have to be built for the RENA numbers in Downey. And I will implore you guys to meet full compliance with what the state is demanding of you to do. The moment that you guys begin to undercut the numbers, we will be the first to report it to the state and to all the authorities that need to be involved to make sure that Downey is held accountable, because housing is important, and we've already witnessed on public record in previous meetings that certain council members sitting up there right now do not appreciate that we have to build these housing units. In fact, council member Trujillo has spoken about delaying this process or even stopping and halting it altogether, and Formetta has done the same in previous meetings, and we could send you those clips if you like. So again, I will suggest the best suggestion for you guys is to take the full numbers into account and make sure that we meet the full compliance, and to make sure that the statistics that you are representing are fully transparent and accurate, because these numbers, as farly as represented, they seem to be lacking the quality of transparency that this community needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please state your name and begin speaking.
Yeah, BC from District 3. It's good to see the Green Party communists coming on board tonight, wanting to increase our density and our overcrowding and talking about the lies that the housing is a human right. I just want to ask that, as a resident of Downey, that we preserve the historic sites in Downey that need to be preserved, like the APUs of what was commonly known as Midget Town west of Treasure Island. That's all. Thank you.
That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I did have a question. Would this housing element be compliant?
I'm going to turn that over to our consultant, or unless...
Yes, City Manager, I can answer. So it's our understanding that it's compliant. We've submitted it once to the state of California, and actually we received 2 sets of comments from the state of California. Now, the state of California will probably reserve, their right to review it once again, so we may get some additional comments. But in terms of all of the different intricacies in this plan, we've checked off all those boxes, and we believe it's compliant.
Thank you. If there's no additional comments or questions, I will now entertain a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
I make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
So ordered by the mayor. I will now entertain a motion and a second to adopt the resolution.
Go ahead and make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
There you go. Second.
Thank you. City Clerk Duarte, can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa.
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton.
Yes.
And Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez absent.
Thank you. And now on to our last public hearing of the evening. Are we ready to proceed with this public hearing? Okay. This public hearing is to receive input from the community regarding the draft map for election district boundaries. The hour having arrived, the public hearing is now open. The time is 8:33 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, do you have notice of publication?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Can I have a motion, a second, to receive and file the notice?
Go ahead and make a motion.
Second?
Second.
City Clerk Duarte, can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton?
Yes.
And Mayor Pacheco.
Yes,
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez absent.
thank you. City Manager Rivas, is there a staff report?
Madam Mayor, there is a staff report that will be provided by Doug Johnson of from National Demographics. He should be online.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. So, good evening. Good to be with you again. This is going to be very similar to what was presented last time, so I'll be brief. But again, we are, after every decennial census, once that data comes out, we do have to revisit the council district lines. And when we did that, as you can see on your screen, the target is just 20,678 people per district. And if you look at the 2020 census numbers and you go across, you can see we're at 10.62% difference between the largest district in District 3 versus the smallest in District 1. And that difference can be no more than 10%. So we do need change, but very small change. Districts 2 and 4 are almost perfectly balanced, which means they grew at essentially the same rate over the course of the decade. And we often do have to look at the Voting Rights Act when we're evaluating and redrawing lines, but in the case of Downey, as you can see in the next section, at least 2/3 of the eligible voters in each district are Latino. So we're not going to run into any voting rights changes, however we redraw these lines. So the proposed changes are fairly small. Down in the south, District 1 needs to pick up population. So the proposal is right now, it stops at Bellflower and at Stewart and Gray Road. And so it would continue north, add a little bit of territory just going up to the railroad, essentially. It actually makes it a more compact, easier understood border as well. That would make 1 the proper population, 4 would then be short, and 3 would still be over. And so 4, the proposal is that only north of I-5, where the current border is Stokes, the border would move so that District 4 would pick up from District 3 the population between Stokes and Paramount, and the new border would be Paramount. So, and that would bring those 2 changes would bring the whole map into balance. So pretty simple proposed changes. Happy to answer any questions you have. And hopefully this will be a smooth process.
Thank you. Are there any questions as of now?
No questions. I think we
Thank you.
reviewed this at our last council meeting, and I think this was the map that made the most sense.
Yes, I remember. So we will go ahead and open this item up for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the city council regarding this public hearing item may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted written comments, your comments will be read into the record, and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the council regarding this item. City Clerk Duarte, have you received any written correspondence to be read into the record?
We have not, Mayor.
Do we have any speakers?
We do not. Yes, Mayor, we have 1 caller. Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yeah, real quick. Mr. Johnson, I think, indicates he wants a smooth process here. It will be a smooth process. We know that the elections are rigged until we get rid of the mail-in ballots and the machines and the harvesting of ballots. None of this will change. This is skewed to favor Democrats, and we all know that here in California. Our elections are not trustworthy, no matter how you drop the maps. Although we only saw 1 map. I didn't see any other maps. So it's not trustworthy, and nobody has any faith in it. Have a good evening.
Any other speakers?
Yes.
Ballots and the machines.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
harvesting of ballots. None of this will change.
Please state your name and begin speaking.
Mommy, I want to talk about the census for national demographics. Can I speak about the voters' decisions for the census? I heard there's 8,678 census of 28,000 population. Why you cut me off? I didn't get 3 minutes, you bitch. Let me
Mr.
be
Herman, your
heard.
time is running.
Oh, okay. The proposed section district census 3 is totally bigger than District 4. And I think, you should cut it like a pie. There's more fun in making it equal and not discriminatory when it comes to voters' eligibility. What? Who's that speaking? And look at District 1 and 2 on the map. One is pink, pussy pink, and the other is like a light blue tinted color, but it doesn't represent the demographics of really what happens with our census. The bottom line, Downey is racist. And they all know that fat idiots like to make rude comments about our census, knowing that our population is growing, Mr. Old Mayor of the past, idiot, fat retard, like a pig.
Mr. Herman, stay on topic, please.
Well, I didn't call you a pig. I called the other idiot a pig. who makes
Second
comments.
warning, last warning. Stay on topic.
And it's very important that all niggers have an opportunity to decide on the districts they want to live in. Because I want to live on the North District on the other side of Firestone because that's where the rich niggers live. Because where Mommy Pacheco, the mayor, lives, all those poor asses have to wait for services that Mommy Pacheco hinders. What?
Any other speakers?
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
All right, so here we are,
Yes, go ahead.
disenfranchised by the overpaid consultant. Why are people that have not graduated from high school not represented in the fancy table? Why is 29% of the people of Downey missing? That's like very discriminatory. You also, of course, do not represent the very notable statistic that 61% of the city is in speaking Spanish at home. Like, I mean, that's just like you only have that little number, but you don't talk about what it means. Why is it that you don't have these meetings in Spanish? They should be completely in Spanish, and it should be translated for those that can't understand Spanish or speak it, because obviously, right, it's supposed to be a democracy, so you should just be speaking Spanish entirely at the meeting. That's just the democratic way. You know, this country has no official language, but if we're going by democratic means, it means that we should be speaking Spanish throughout the entirety of this meeting. So there was also a mention, even though it's not on the table, about the voter party. So it's, I agree with that caller, because the Democrats and the Republicans have conspired to rig the elections, actually. So, of course, we know it's certainly the Green Party, also the Libertarian Party has been at the forefront of unrigging those elections, because those of you up there, especially, the delegates, the Democratic Party, like the mayor, they certainly rig elections. They literally change the votes. That's been proven, by independent researchers. They take voters off the rolls if they think that you're not going to vote for them. So all of that is what the mayor and her Democratic Party is doing. So that's why it's really cool that there's these other parties, like, certainly the Green Party, which was mentioned initially. Then there's the Libertarian Party. There's many other parties. So everyone who's a regular person should exit the Democratic and Republican Party, because those parties have completely failed and neglected regular people, pretty much up and down, whether it's local. And people here say that, politics, Democrat, Republican doesn't matter here, but that's completely false, because, of course, Downey used to be ruled by Republicans. Now it's ruled by Democrats. But essentially, those are Democrats in name only, dinos. So this is a corporate structure, and we should say no to the corruption of the Democrats, like the mayor. The mayor is completely corrupt. So that's why, indeed, people should be thinking about alternative parties, as again mentioned by, I think, the first caller. So,
Any other speakers?
Yes, one more. Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Hi, I'm a constituent that lives here in the 4th District. I just want to say how in past council meetings, it's been mentioned that the 5th District needs to be broken up in order to be compliant with anti-discriminatory regulations for voting. You guys have not presented any information on breaking up the 5th District. Councilmember Trujillo has made no mention about this. This is alarming. If we're trying to protect the integrity of our voting constituents and make these elections fair for the entire community, we need to make sure that we are compliant with the standards that are being given to us by today. And the 5th District, as a large district, should not exist anymore. It is a problem for equality and for voting rights. And I hope that this council not only takes action on this immediately, but does not continue to blatantly ignore it, because it seems to be a trend among these council members is to ignore things that need to be taken care of and done in order to be compliant. So please do your job. Look at breaking up the 5th District. And if our population increase, we might even have to increase representation by opening up a few more seats. Thank you. Oh, and before I end my comment, thank you, Mr. Olivas, for resigning. You were a joke, and your job...
Not on topic. Not on topic. Any other speakers? Okay. If there's no questions from my council colleagues, I will now entertain a motion, a second, to close public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second? So ordered by the mayor. I will now entertain a motion, a second, to receive and file public input from the community regarding the draft map for election district boundaries.
Make a motion.
Is there a
I'll
second?
make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Second.
I'll second.
City Clerk Duarte, can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton?
Yes.
And Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez absent.
Thank you. Now is the time for public comment on agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items. Before we begin the public comment period, I would like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you are participating telephonically. Pursuant to the Downey Municipal Code, each speaker shall have 4 minutes to address the council regarding agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items. The public comment period is limited to 30 minutes unless modified by the mayor. Members of the public who wish to address the city council regarding agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items may now call our teleconference phone line at 299-6622. For those who submitted written comments, their comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. I remind speakers your comments may be addressed to me and not to any other council or staff member. City Clerk Duarte, have we received any written correspondence on agenda, consent calendar, and non-agenda items to be read into the record?
Yes, Mayor, we have. The first public comment is from Anna Brown. I'm sorry, let me begin again here. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I want to start by saying thank you to those who voted in favor of a no confidence of the policies of LA District Attorney George Gascon. Although it was a symbolic vote, it showed that those who voted in favor listened to the cries of the Downey community, and as elected officials, part of your job is to listen to your constituents. Having said that, you may already know that the recall of George Gascon has started once again, and many of us Downey residents are already out in the community getting petitions signed. Keep in mind that even if you signed the petition before, you must sign again, as this is a new recall. There will be a Downey Volunteers Recall George Gascon petition signing kickoff event on Saturday, February 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the corner of Downey Avenue and 2nd Streets. I would like to invite our Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and all council members and everyone who values safety and supporting victims instead of criminals to come over to say hello and sign the petition. Thank you kindly for allowing me this time. The next correspondence is from Fatima Baki. Hi, to the chambers and mayor. This is for Chief Murray. There was a report from Court Watch LA, an independent news source, recently released a report where a person was arrested and jailed for 3 entire days after an illegal warrant in 2015 over administrative fees in which, after 2021, half are no longer applicable. This person finished their probation and wasn't released until a public defender argued that the warrant was illegal to begin with. This situation is absolutely and unnecessary. This city is one of the safest in Southeast Los Angeles, and it is mortifying to me as a constituent, as this city is one of the safest in Southeast Los Angeles, and according to the police scorecard, our score, which is 58 over 100, but with only 17% of civilians' complaints read. I am worried this comment might go over one's head, especially from a department that never apologized for the death of Michael Naida. Everyone deserves the constitutional right to due process, in which this situation does not reflect that. We need to do better. I am concerned and upset by this situation, as I'm sure it wasn't the first or last. I hope the arresting officers have taken the appropriate corrective action. Thank you for your time. Next correspondence is from Maria Lam. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to you to share some issues I've been dealing with for years. Parents have been parking inside or outside my driveway and blocking me from coming in or out of my own home. I've gone to the school principal from Rio San Gabriel Elementary to get some kind of help with the issue, and nothing got done. I've called the police department, they put me on hold, and nothing gets done. These parents are more shameless and turned into Karens. They think they're entitled. I need help. Something has to be done. Please, I'm asking for help before a parent gets aggressive or violent. I've been a Downey resident for almost 20 years, and I've been dealing with this issue forever. I'm tired of it. Let's work on it, please.
Before you go on to the next one, is there anybody that can help this resident? Resident lives over by Rio San Gabriel Elementary School. I wonder who we can direct them to.
So let me have code enforcement take a look at it. We'll have Aldo, and then they'll coordinate with the PD. So
Okay.
we'll start there.
Okay, thank you.
The next correspondence, Mayor, is from Mr. Lee Squire. Lee Squire, member of plaintiff's class of residential water rate payers voters. City of Brea employee retired. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Water ratepayer, City of Downey. Subject, Hessner lawsuit, demur, change of venue, lawsuit dismissed without prejudice. Number 1, understand the above lawsuit against Downey was dismissed without prejudice. Number 2, lawsuit dismissed without prejudice can be refiled at any time by water ratepayer or City of Downey in Los Angeles County Superior Court. Change of venue requested by City of Downey. See demur. I am asking for facts and circumstances as to lawsuit dismissed without prejudice. Was lawsuit dismissed without prejudice so lawsuit can be filed in court where Downey located in pursuit of justice, per demur, and out of fairness to witnesses? I wish City Council would have held public hearing so to have what is called exhaustion of administrative remedies. I have attached pages from demur and tentative ruling. God bless America, God bless Israel, God bless military veterans, God bless police and their families. That is all on the written comments, Mayor, and we do have some phone calls.
Okay.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yeah. Civil Rights, Civil Code Section 51.7, disability of civil administrative remedies for those niggas like ourselves who are victims of this type of violence by Miss Fomenta and her husband in an issue of violence directed against a disabled person and particular class of persons, Miss Mommy. So the Ralph Act provides that all persons with the state have the right to be free from violence. So why did the nigger mayor roll up in her Mercedes and have her husband threaten a particular individual that's disabled? Is it because she's practicing Martin Luther King freedom? The only nigger I know that's free is me. But I'm not going to allow your ass to shout at me from your vehicle, especially out in front of a public meeting while you're leaving the meeting, you crazy ass. The Ralph Act declares and prohibits these types of discrimination listed in Section 51.7 and merely illustrative. Now, remember, we have Brandenburg versus Ohio, and we also got Bagdasarian versus United States in Pasadena, where, as they say, the use of potentially could cause problems. Now, the rights provided by the Ralph Act can be enforced by aggravated individuals. However, the Attorney General, your local district attorney, and local city attorney can seek to enforce protection under the Ralph Act's rights. Mommy, moo! Moo! You can either file a private lawsuit or seek the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, DFEH. So now that Russia's going to kick America's ass, we should be proud that we made America what it is today. Because we got fools in our local government whose behavior is offensive. That goddamn nigger ain't doing nothing fucking right. 4 years of this shit. And that dumb president of yours haven't done shit right. So I'll tell you. Stop blaming Wayne Spindler for making these calls, because it's not him. It's his puppet. His puppet's trying to tell you something. February 8th, Jose Weezer, LA Times story about his trip to Las Vegas. goddamn racketeering RICO motherfucking criminal, Jose Luis Huizar, 42 U.S.C. 1983. Fuck you. I hope the federal government slams your ass with the books and make an example of the political, corrupted asshole like yourself for doing the damage you done to all the people of America in California, Los Angeles County, and by the way, fuck Gavin Newsom. And in addition to that, where the fuck is that mayor from Los Angeles, Erica Garcetti? He don't do shit right.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yes. Hi, I am a constituent of the 4th District. I am calling today to speak on some grievances that I continue to see in the city of Downey. And one is, let us start off by beginning some of the people that are appointed to our commissions. I'm talking about people like Mario Guerra and Mr. Rick Rodriguez, former mayor. There is video and photography of them not wearing their masks in the chambers. Now, during one of these meetings, I took the time to alert them that they needed to wear their mask in the chambers, and their response was negative and practically an insult. So to see that commissioners who are bounded by an ethics clause are here, who are also former mayors, are not following the guidelines that are initiated for all our constituents is a problem. And I am asking the city attorney and the city manager to consider addressing this and maybe conversing with them about how to appropriately follow the guidelines. I want to also point out that, Ms. Romero, you are announcing that you are running for the 4th District again. This is a concern because you've voted against the LGBTQ community. You've lied about water contamination. You've made threats along with your husband to other constituents simply for speaking out against you. Your son has insulted and made threats against constituents for protesting some of your policies. So I hope that you reconsider and that you never pursue any office because you're clearly a criminal and a Republican who lies about their status. Mr. Olivas, thank you for resigning. You have always done a terrible job. You failed protecting our city from the pandemic. You never addressed John Askew's insults and bigotry and sexism to this day. He's still employed under you, and he is protected because of you. So I see a lot of work needs to be done in the city. Some of these council members need to remove themselves from these seats to make way for a better, brighter future and for future candidates to actually help out and create a better, more sustainable, powerful city. And that doesn't seem to be you guys at the moment. With that said, I do want to make another reference to Ms. Chief Murray. I just want to let her know that it was unfortunate to hear about the people being detained. I'm a big fan of Ms. Baki, and I think that she is very informed about our legal system and about the happenings within our city. So if she is bringing up a complaint to our chief, I hope that the city council takes it very seriously and that they understand that our community is also behind Ms. Fatima, and that we are also going to make sure that with the introduction of this new police chief, that our constituents are protected and that we see our best police force by making sure that every single police officer follows the guidelines to the teeth and remembers that they work for the community. With that said, that's practically going to end my comment. Again, thank you, Mr. Olivas, for resigning, and I will reiterate, break the 5th District. Break the 5th District. Thank you.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Hello, my name is Zhang Li. City council members and mayors and committee members, I speak about current restriction upon individuals. Even if you might think that what I speak is about is not fitting for this meeting. However, actually it is for Downey City Council meetings because Downey City stands for Downey committee members. Even though Downey City opposed the standing of California State or Los Angeles County, if the matter is important for Downey committee members, you who are elected for committee members should stand and speak up for us, not for tyranny. There are matters that Downey City can speak up because it depends on what kind of matter it is. Since I've been talking about vaccines, and as you can see, all the movements, not only in Los Angeles area, but also throughout the world, including our neighbor country, Canada. Today, I'm bringing out another issue under emergency order. So many countries and many states are already free from all these nonsense restrictions upon us. We, the people, who can decide what is right and wrong based on available information by our own. As we have seen how even those people who impose these unlawful orders a lot during pandemic do not keep their own order. Even the California state governor Gavin Newsom, who does not keep his order when he expected people to follow his order. We are under so many restrictions which takes away our freedom, even in common life. For masking, it has been used in thinking that it limits the spread of virus. There might be little benefit compared to the damage from the masking. You know how masks limit not physically affect to human development or even health, also it affects psychosocial health. For example, for recent reports, mask wearing during the pandemic has caused 3.6 times increase in patients referral of babies and toddlers for speech therapy, and 22 points of IQ scores of young children born during the pandemic went down. Children in masks living social distance led a sedentary lifestyle, likely becoming both obese and depressed. Most of studies are based on children. However, it is not only related to for children, but also for adults and elderly. Today, I'm so alarmed when I cannot attend this meeting physically. Each one of you need to think about what is important for us. How many got COVID, or how serious the COVID became. And lastly, I want to inform about California School Choice Movement, which gives parents right back. CaliforniaSchoolChoice.org. You may go and check for yourself. And thank you. Have a good night.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Hello, yes, good evening. So I'd like to make some general comments. So of course it's an election year, so people are getting excited, and I see that apparently there's going to be some council members pursuing re-election. There's also a lot of talk about the elections, and I mean both in the present, this year's, and the last election. And there's a narrative out there that what happened, which of course was, you know, the very big event of the election of Councilmember Alvarez, and the running of Mr. Martinez, these young people, and that were not afraid to call out the failed establishment. I thought that was really inspiring. And there's this narrative that it's just going to go away. All you got to do is remove Miss Alvarez. So regardless of whether you are able to remove her or not, this is just going to continue, because what we're seeing is kind of a realignment, a reawakening in our society, of which, of course, Downey is a part, and we've had these in our history. Probably the last one before this one was in 1980, when Reagan convinced a bunch of young people to follow his ideas. Well, guess what? In 2016, there was one dude who got a lot of young people to follow his ideas. Of course, that was Senator Bernie Sanders. And he got even more of the votes in 2020. And as I've discussed many times in the past, he was the most popular candidate in Downey. And so that was something that we saw, that anyone can see in the numbers if they look closely. And then Ms. Alvarez got elected. Mr. Martinez got a good share of the vote, especially considering, he was not taking any corporate money, obviously. So I think that's wonderful. I think we need to keep encouraging young people. I can't believe that some people want to recall the only millennial on the council. So this is just inappropriate. And you're totally doing a disservice to the community. You will be judged, years in the future as regressive, because of course we're going to transform the community. Again, whether you recall Ms. Alvarez or not, the progress is going to continue. There's going to be more people getting involved. You can't stop the progress. And it's happening. We can even see it in your own behavior. It's like you're highlighting, the rental assistance program. And you've done that because we push you to do it. So at the end of the day, we're going to have progress in our community, whether you like it or not, whether your corporate donors and your corporate parties like it or not, whether it's the Republican or the Democratic Party. We, the people, are going to win, especially, obviously, the young people that are very progressive, and they've had it with the policies that you've established over the last 40 years. It's just, and this is not a dig on any one person. It's just that's just the structure of history. So now we're turning a different page, and the millennial voting bloc of Downey and all the surrounding cities is ready for change. I don't know what you people are doing, thinking that you're going to be elected to higher office. Please, things are changing. They've already changed, and they're going to keep changing even faster than you or I can appreciate. So get with the program.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yes. Alistair Hunter, Mayor Pacheco, council members. This evening, Councilmember Alvarez recommended. Yes. Alistair Hunter.
We can hear you, Alistair. You can go ahead.
Mr. Alistair, can you lower the volume on your device?
Yes, just 1 second. I think it's gone. Okay. Sorry. My apologies. Councilmember Alvarez recommended the Prentice exhibit stay up until February 22nd. There is no need. I'm recommending that DAC remove it on February 15th, as we agreed in arrangement with the assistant manager today. It doesn't need to be up to recognize the artists. No one will be there. We're recommending that perhaps the city recognize the artists briefly on February 22nd to the Zoom audience. On item number 15, I'm a longtime practitioner and advocate for arts, culture, history, education in Los Angeles County. I'm also a strong advocate for those efforts in Downey. I'm in support of the Arts and Culture Planning Workshop on February the 24th. There have been previous efforts, including an effort with a former head librarian that failed. Strategic planning is a commitment of resources by the city, the involvement of stakeholders, and the community in the process. It's critical for any long-range success. A first-time planning workshop is one step towards that goal. It's not easy, but there's no reason that Downey can't be a leader in this area too. I understand Tomas Benitez is a potential facilitator. I've observed his work over the decades with Plaza de la Raza, self-help graphics, and his role facilitating the city of Santa Ana and some other cities in arts master plans. I encourage you to support conducting the workshop. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Please state your name and begin speaking.
Yes, BC from District 3. Good to see all the grifter communists coming out tonight wanting some more of our city resident money. But Mayor, you don't have to worry. They're going to support you with the lockdowns and the masks. And we know now with the study from Johns Hopkins that the masks have done virtually nothing to help us in this stomping out the pandemic, just like that illegitimate President Joe Biden promised to do. He didn't do that. But don't worry, all of them agree with you. They're moving in a new direction. They're saying there's going to be change, and you need to be ready for it. So the change that they're moving to is like this mayor supported Mother's Day shutdown of our parks, Easter Sunday shutdown of our parks, 4th of July shutdowns, and this mayor even put out a hotline, the number that you can call and report to our police and code enforcement that if you saw people not observing the stay-at-home orders and the gatherings, that you could report them. And you put our police in a very, very uncomfortable position by doing that. But don't worry, never fear. Mr. Alistair Hunter sent in a letter to the editor when he noticed the police were not enforcing these laws as the true Nazis he thinks they should be. I would expect nothing short from this mayor being a Chicano studies specialist and supporting the grifting that goes on with the Downey Arts Coalition and the State Gallery, which hasn't been open. I walk by there and drive by there, and it is never open. But knowing full well that we are spending $35,000 a year on the State Gallery, and the city manager even wants to throw it up that to $50,000 to combine them and the Downey Arts Coalition, so these racist bigots can go ahead and grift more money from the residents who they accuse and you accuse of being colonizers on this territory of indigenous people. Thank you very much for that. And also this mayor supported flying the gay flag over all of our buildings. This mayor supported the gay picnic, where we can groom young people to come into these events and sit down at tables and be tolerant and accepting of these behaviors. And maybe we can teach them how to participate in this lifestyle. Yes, this mayor has supported the LGBT and the mental illness that goes with such people that needs to be addressed. And also, I want to say that the mayor also indicated that this mayor was proud and honored and humbled to shake the hand of the illegitimate President Joe Biden. Honored to shake the hand of the guy that left 9,000 people in Afghanistan. Honored to shake the hand of the guy that cut off the XL pipeline, which made us energy independent. And honored to shake the hand of the guy that is allowing illegal aliens, untested and unvaccinated, to just flood across our borders and distribute them out into cities in our country in the middle of the night. And no wonder, never has even this mayor or anybody on this council ever stood up and demanded that illegal aliens, every one of them, should be deported and made to go through the process legally. Yes, there's change. It's coming. But are you ready? Well, good luck, Ms. Fermetta. District 4.
Thank you.
Please state your name and begin speaking. Please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Leticia Vasquez Wilson. I'm one of 8 members of the Central Basin Water Board. I'm calling to make a comment about the Kestner lawsuit that you will be discussing in closed session, and request that your city council members carefully look at the rate structure that the city has imposed on water rate customers in your city. This lawsuit very clearly outlines the unlawfulness of this particular rate hike. The city of Downey is one of a number of cities that is being mentioned in this lawsuit as a city that has increased its water rates against Proposition 218. As a reminder, about probably 15 years ago, the state of California did an audit not only on Central Basin, but also on the city of Downey's water fund. And they found that the city of Downey was actually unlawfully moving water rate or water funds from its water fund, actually monies from the water fund into the general fund, which is not permitted in the state of California. Mr. John O'Scully, as many of you know, served as your representative on the Central Basin Municipal Water District. He actually pushed an illegal water rate increase at Central Basin, which was actually challenged. So your city has a very, very long history where its administrators have consistently, for whatever reason, thought that they could violate Prop 218 laws and raise water rates. And so I certainly request that you take a look at this matter and really encourage the new city manager, whoever that's going to be, to come in and look at the quality of the water being supplied to the residents, because there are some issues there with your water quality, and hopefully at some point in the near future, the residents of Downey will be treated fairly and get the clean water that they so rightfully deserve when they pay their water rates. Thank you.
Please state your name and begin speaking.
Mommy! Mommy, it's me!
Did he speak?
You would have
He already spoke.
That is all, Mayor.
Move to close public comment.
Is there a second?
There's a second, but I have to address the resident from the 3rd District who clearly is a bigot and a homophobe. How dare you talk about the LGBT community and allude that we're a bunch of crazies? You have some nerve, sir. You are a bigot and a racist. You are. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment period is now closed. Now is the time for consent calendar items. Are there any council members that would like to remove or abstain from an item?
No? Move to approve?
Council member,
I have to abstain from the meeting minutes of January 12th, 2022. I was absent. That's item number 4 on the consent calendar. Are we there yet?
yes, we are.
Thank you, for the record.
There's an additional item. Councilmember Trujillo.
And 11, thank you.
Also, I wanted to make a note on, well, better yet, let me pull items number 4, and I will pull items number 12 and 13. So that way we can approve the rest of the consent calendar items. Is there a motion and a second
Make
to?
a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
City Clerk Duarte, can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton? Mayor Pro Tem Ashton?
We may have lost him. Is he on the line?
He's still in the meeting, as far as I can tell.
Huh. Well.
Absent?
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton is absent. Mayor Pacheco?
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez and Mayor Pro Tem Ashton absent.
Thank you. The reason why I pulled item number 4 was more specifically for the January 12th, 2022 meetings. I just wanted to reflect there's some couple of corrections that need to be made. The mayor alternates here. It sometimes says Mayor Pacheco and sometimes says Mayor Frometa. And then for Councilmember Ashton, it should be Mayor Pro Tem Ashton.
Mayor, we will go ahead and make those corrections to the minutes.
Thank you. So besides that, everything else is correct. Should we go ahead and do a motion to approve this one?
Yep.
Let's make a motion with these corrections. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of item number 4 with the understanding that Councilmember Trujillo needs to abstain from January 12th, 2022, as he was not present during this meeting? Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
No, if is Ashton on the line, you need to have your 3 votes. Right, if, is,
It doesn't,
Councilmember Trujillo is going to abstain, that
May-
leaves 2 votes if Ashton's still on the line.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton, are you still there? Okay.
Mayor, we can pull those minutes and then bring them back
That's
with the
right.
corrections to the
Okay,
next meeting? So
that's
the.
fine.
Okay, so then we can just
adopt-
approve the minutes of the special meetings, the minutes for the special meeting of November 16, 2021?
Yes.
Okay,
We have a motion from Councilmember Frometa.
yes. And is there a second from Councilmember Trujillo?
Second.
Can we take a roll call vote on that item?
Yes. Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton is absent, and Mayor Pacheco?
Yes.
The motion is approved with Council Members Alvarez and Ashton absent.
Thank you. So the reason why I wanted to pull item number 12 is this is in respect to AB 361, continuing on with our teleconferencing for an additional 30 days. I just wanted to make it clear to our Downey residents that the state mandate as to masking will be lifted next week on February 15th, but in LA County, the masking mandate will still remain in effect. And the reason why I pulled this item is I wanted to see from the council if you prefer to continue on with allowing council members or to proceed with teleconferencing meetings, or you prefer to reopen the council chambers at the next council meeting. So that's the reason why I pulled it. I didn't want to sneak it by to the Downey residents. And I'm comfortable either way. If the council wants, we could always extend it out an additional 30 days and maybe stop after that point, given that by then the COVID numbers should be better.
I think, yes, let's leave it as is. Most, if not all, in-person meetings are resuming, and I think we should be fine.
Okay.
I'm fine with extending it as well.
Okay.
As long as the residents, please remember that if you need to get a hold of us, you can email us and certainly get a hold of us so we could address your issues.
Mayor, Councilmember Ashton is back on the line.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I heard you guys clearly. I did need to abstain from item number 4 for the minutes there for January 12th. But as far as this item, I think it's prudent to at least extend it another 30 days just to make sure that we're through this Omicron variant wave of COVID. So I'm in support of extending another 30 days.
Okay, thank you. So there's a motion and a second. Can, Madam City Clerk, can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton?
Yes.
And Mayor Pacheco?
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez absent.
Perfect. And the last item that I pulled was item number 13. This has to do with the CFE networks for implementation of a citywide fiber optic network system. City Manager Olivas, Will this give our Downey residents access to high-speed internet? Like, what impact would this have on our Downey residents?
Madam Mayor, one of the things that the council during our last year's goal setting was to established and set out for the staff was to look for ways to get high-speed internet throughout the city. And so one of the things that we did is we looked at various cities that were going through a process of implementing fiber optic networks throughout their community. And we ended up finding one in Placentia and Fullerton that were doing it. Specifically in Placentia was the one that we went to, looked at what they were doing. So this will allow for fiber optic networks to be laid throughout the city, which will allow for people to be able to access through a third-party provider high-speed internet. One of the challenges that we've had right now is that there's very few. At one point, we had Verizon that was here, and then they, for years, had talked about getting fiber laid in the city, and it never happened. Then Frontier. This allows for the laying of fiber optics throughout the city, and allows us also an opportunity to become what they call a smart city, which will allow for businesses and industry and residents to be able to access high-speed internet.
Thank you. I know this is one of the things that's near and dear to Councilmember Trujillo's heart. So I don't know if you had any questions with respect to this item.
No. No questions.
Okay.
Sorry, no questions, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I do think this is wonderful. I did have a question. I know this is going to be a no cost to the city, but is there a way to implement some kind of local hiring or apprenticeship program within this project?
On this particular one, no. This one is an agreement that we have because we're not paying for anything, and so it's the 100% of the cost is burdened by the vendor itself. They're the ones that are doing the work, so we don't have an agreement in terms of those particular issues. So, yeah.
Okay.
Now, I do have another.
Yes.
I have a question. With this, I know that we had discussed previously, probably in the last year or so, as we move forward with the repavement and
Right.
rehabilitation of our streets,
Right.
that there is a concerted
Yes.
effort to do, right, to partner and make sure that as these streets are being opened up for,
Right.
that is
Yes.
coordinated,
So
right?
we're-
Those
we're-
efforts are coordinated.
Yes, we're coordinating those, and one of the things that we were really impressed about is that the trenching that they do is a micro trenching. It's very, very small. You won't even notice it, and so they do a really good job at that. So, and because there are streets in the city that have been repaved already, and so we still want to be able to have those folks have the access. So this micro trenching will allow them to go in, and it won't really dig up much. It's about 2 inches.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more question. With this fiber optic network system, would it allow us to have more of the capability to offer free Wi-Fi at our local parks?
Yes, eventually we'll be able to tap in that. We actually, one of the things that we recently have done as well is, I know that we're putting up signs for the parks that have free Wi-Fi. I think Councilmember Trujillo suggested that we have access to that free Wi-Fi, and there is no signage out there, so he was correct in doing that. So we're in the process of doing that. But yes, this will allow us then to just tap into those lines as they approach parks, rather than bringing them from, a half a mile away and doing a lot of expensive fiber optic laying. So this will allow us to have access to those. So yes.
Thank you. I think this is amazing. I want to see also, last question, to see if we could maybe send something out to our local newspapers, both the Downey Patriot and Downey Latino, letting residents know about this exciting news.
Sure. We'll put together a press release and send it out. Sure.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So is there a motion to to approve item number 13? Or, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro
Madam
Tem
Mayor, if I may?
Ashton? Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Just a really quick question. So this will guarantee that every house and every business in the city of Downey will have access to fiber optic cables for internet?
Yeah, as a cable gets laid, yes. So what'll happen is that cable,
By the time it's finished anyway,
yes,
right?
yes, correct.
Okay. And we're looking at it looked like a 2-year plan to get this done?
4 years.
4 years. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
All right.
I'll second.
Second, City Clerk Duarte, can you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton,
Yes.
and Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez absent.
Thank you. And the next item is an administrative report. Discuss a recommendation made by the members of the Arts and Culture Subcommittee to conduct a planning workshop on February 24, 2020, and provide direction to staff. City Manager Rivas, do we have someone giving a staff report for item number 15?
Mayor, we do, just to give me a second here. Lost my place. Yes, that item will be presented by John. If you could give us a presentation, please.
Thank you, City Manager Rivas. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, over the course of the last few months, as part of the Art and Culture Subcommittee meetings, I think we've now had 4 meetings. There has been great participation by the members of the community who are interested in furthering the cause of art and culture and expanding existing programs that we have. As you can imagine, there is a range of ideas and a number of recommendations that has been floated around. And throughout the discussion, both members of the subcommittee, Council Members Alvarez and Trujillo, you made a point of the importance of being able to embrace all of these ideas, but give it a form and a shape. And in order to be able to do that, the need for conducting a workshop became very apparent. So that's what you have before you. There is a tentative date for the 25th of this month to conduct that workshop. Every group that has an interest that is going to be considered a stakeholder in the city is going to be invited to attend. We are hopeful that it is going to be a robust discussion, an exchange of ideas about the future of art and culture in the city. And for that, we need the service of a facilitator with an extended background, and you have that proposal before you. So what we are asking is for your authorization to allocate $4,000 in funds. Those funds are available through existing line items in the budget, professional services and other line items. And we would like to set aside $3,500, which is the fee for the facilitator, and $500 for the incidental costs. So we are respectfully requesting that you consider this request and you authorize this expenditure. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from my council colleagues?
No questions. Just want to thank Mr. Ascoli for just trying to organize just the different stakeholders who are interested in art, culture, and Downey history. We keep forgetting the Downey history part. I want to assure the residents again that we're being mindful of how we spend taxpayer money. The area of arts and culture, sometimes for some people it's seen as a waste of money, but for some others it's an investment for our community. So please know that we're watching your money. But with that said, I would like to make a motion that we adopt the recommendation for the expenditure.
I'll go ahead and second that motion. I think it is important to bring all these stakeholders together. I know it's been talked about in the past. We have a rich history in Downey, and we have a lot of opportunities. It's about bringing people together and having someone that will be a facilitator and guide them through the process. I think will be vital to moving forward efficiently and equally for all of them.
Thank you. And I think it's also a wonderful idea. I also have to add that Mr. Benitez does have an impressive resume, so it seems like that a really good facilitator was selected. So unless Mayor Pro Tem has any additional comments or questions, I'm going to go ahead and accept the motion by
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry.
No, I'll be very brief. I do appreciate all the work that went into getting this planned, and I think this will be a good event and a good beginning to kind of, as a system manager, Steve said, kind of put some form to our thought, because we all want to have, culture in our city and recognize that culture and celebrate that culture. But in my 7 years on council, and part of this, I guess, is on my shoulders as well, I've always felt that there's been no form to this, like was mentioned. We've just kind of done certain things and tried certain things, and then sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm hoping this is an opportunity to actually make it move forward and have an actual kind of, more of a I guess event, not event, just more of a formative procedure for art events in our city, using and making use of the state gallery, better than what it's been, because that is an issue as well that one of our callers brought up was the state gallery, and I like the space, but it's tough to kind of see what's going on there a lot of the time. So I'm hoping that we can get this to actually start moving this process forward and do better than what we've done in the past. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So there's a motion, a second. City Clerk Duarte, can you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Councilmember Alvarez is absent. Councilmember Frometa?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashton?
Yes.
And Mayor Pacheco?
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Alvarez absent.
Thank you. City Manager Olivas, do you have any comments?
Madam Mayor, I have no comments this evening.
Thank you. City Council meeting is now adjourned in memory of Captain Max Fortuna, Stockton Fire Department, Campus Safety Officers J.J. Jefferson and John Painter, Bridgewater College, Sergeant Danny Rice, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Downey Fire Department retired dispatcher Bob Lopez with 25 years of service, and all lives lost due to COVID. Moment of silence. Meeting adjourned.